The candle on my side of the bed had burned down to nothing, and I could smell the spent wick, that thin thread of smoke, hanging in the dark. Eli was already still beside me, not asleep. Still. There is a difference, and by that point in my marriage, I knew it the way I knew weather. By the air pressure. By some shift I couldn't name, but couldn't miss. My hands were raw. From washing, we'd put up 40-some jars of applesauce that day, and the lids had left little half-moon marks across my palms. I was so tired my teeth hurt. When he reached for me, I put my hand flat on his arm, and I said, quietly, so the children wouldn't stir in the next room. I said, "Not tonight, Eli. I am sorry, not tonight." He didn't answer. He didn't move. He just breathed, slow and even like a man counting something. I don't know why, but that breathing scared me more than any words would have. My name is Ruth, and this is Ruth, the Amish girl, the channel where I say the things that were never supposed to leave the house. I grew up old order in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, married at 20. And I left when I was 27. If you want to keep hearing what life behind the prayer cap actually looked like, subscribe and hit the like button. And tell me in the comments, did you ever apologize for something your body simply could not do? Because I did. That night was the first time. It wasn't the last. There is a word we used, horsam, obedience. It was in the hymns, in the sermons, in the way my mother set her face when she disagreed with my father, and then quietly did the thing he wanted anyway. It was in the water. You didn't question it any more than you questioned the sun rising. The bishop in our district had a way of saying it that made it sound like the most natural thing in the world. He'd say a wife's will was a beautiful thing when it bends, and the room would nod, and I would nod. And I was 17, and I thought I understood what he meant. I didn't. Not yet. I was a good man in the ways the community measured good men. He provided. He didn't drink. He showed up when the neighbors needed help with a roof or a sick animal. He wasn't cruel. I want to say that clearly because it matters. He was not cruel. He was a man who had been handed a script his whole life. And he followed it the way all of us followed the things we were handed. That is not an excuse. It is just the shape of what happened. After the night, I said no. The silence started the next morning, at breakfast. He spoke to our daughter about her chores. He spoke to our son about helping in the fields. He poured his coffee. He ate his eggs. And he did not once look at the part of the table where I was standing, not through me, not around me. Just, I wasn't there. The chair I was sitting in might as well have been empty. I told myself. It was tiredness on his part too. I told myself one day would pass and it would even out. 3 days went by. 5. His mother came on the 6th day with a pie, and she and Eli talked for an hour at the kitchen table, while I moved around them, refilling coffee, wiping the counter, being useful. She left, without saying much to me. At the door she paused, and she looked at the kitchen floor, not at me, and she said, "A hard worker keeps a warm house, Ruth." Then she left. I stood at the sink a long time after that. The second time I said no was about 3 weeks later. I don't remember exactly what led to it. I think I was sick. Some kind of cold that had settled in my chest and made it hard to breathe lying flat. I said it quietly again, the same way, hands pressed together under the blanket. "Eli, I can't. I am really not well." He turned his back. This time the silence had a different quality to it, thicker. The next Sunday at church, 2 women who usually sat beside me sat somewhere else. Not dramatically. They just weren't there. I noticed it and told myself I was imagining things. But you don't imagine things like that when you've been trained your whole life to read rooms, to feel the temperature of a gathering, to know without being told exactly where you stand. A woman named Barbie Lapp found me afterward, at the long tables, helping to set out the cold cuts. She was maybe 15 years older than me, wide-faced, quiet. Someone I'd always thought of as solid, in the way certain people are solid. She started laying out bread beside me, and she didn't look up when she spoke. She said, "The first time, they call it tiredness. The second time, they call it a pattern. You want to make sure there is no third time, Ruth. You want to make sure of that before it gets decided for you." I asked her what she meant, decided by who. She set down the bread. She said, "By everyone." That was all. She moved to the other end of the table. She didn't bring it up again. I want to tell you that I went home and thought carefully about what Barbie had said, that I sat with it and felt the wrongness of it and started making some kind of plan. That is not what happened. What happened is that I went home and I made supper and I did not say no again for 11 months. 11 months. I want you to hold that number, because here is the thing I didn't understand then. The thing that took me years to see clearly. I thought I was choosing. I thought that was me deciding, weighing the situation, keeping the peace for my family. I felt, in a way, almost proud of myself for managing it, for being practical. But I wasn't choosing. The choosing had been done for me before I was born, by the structure that surrounded me on every side, the bishop and the elders and the mothers-in-law, and the women at the tables who showed up to deliver small terrible warnings, disguised as conversation. There was no space where a real choice could exist. A choice needs room. It needs at least 2 options that don't cost you everything. I had no such room. The thing I didn't expect, and this is the part I've never said out loud before, is that during those 11 months, I stopped feeling it. The thing I'd been protecting by saying no. The tiredness, the need, the sense that my body belonged to me and had limits that deserved respect. It went quiet. I went quiet inside, and for a while I thought that was healing. I thought the system had been right all along, that the submission had smoothed something rough in me that needed smoothing. It was only after I left, years later, talking to a woman who ran a support group for women who'd come out of high-control communities, that I understood what had actually happened. She didn't use complicated words. She just said, "Sometimes when a person can't get out, they leave from the inside instead." I sat with that for weeks. I left at 27 with my 2 children and a box of things, and the particular kind of calm that comes not from peace, but from having finally made a decision so large. It has already eaten your fear. The shunning came. My mother's face at the window of the farmhouse, the last time I drove past, not waving. My sister turning away in a parking lot 18 months later. Like I was a stranger, like I was less than a stranger, like I was a reminder of something. I don't blame them. That is not emptiness speaking. I genuinely don't. They are inside the same structure. I was inside. They are doing the only thing the structure allows. But here is what I think about sometimes, late at night when the house is finally quiet. I think about Barbie Lapp at the table, with the bread. I think about the careful way she warned me, without quite warning me. The way she kept her hands moving, the whole time she spoke. Like if she stopped moving, they'd know she'd said something. She didn't tell me to leave. She didn't tell me I was wrong to be tired. She just told me what was coming, so that I wouldn't be blindsided by it. That is a small thing. Maybe the smallest possible thing a person could do. But I wonder sometimes what it cost her. What she went home to that night. Whether she had her own Barbie Lapp, once, at some earlier table, in some earlier year, telling her to make sure there was no third time. Whether it helped. Whether it ever helped. If this stayed with you, I want to hear what part. Leave it in the comments. And if you want to keep hearing the stories that were never meant to leave the kitchen, Subscribe to Ruth the Amish Girl. There is a lot more I still need to say.